Welcome back to the Djellab channel, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, we are here shooting at Clubhouse 5, right off of Leicester Square. If you are in the local area, make sure you come here to watch all the sports, all of the time. It's the Euros. It's been Euroified, and we are enjoying it indeed. Joining me today, Henry Hill, Patrick Van Straten. Henners, how you doing?
Yeah, so good. Loving 2 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 8 o'clock football every day. So many screamers this Euros. There's been lots to enjoy so far. Indeed. And also, like someone said, this proves that having the World Cup in Qatar was a bit of a joke. And I sort of, although I didn't, this Euros has been unbelievable for the fan culture.
Been very good fun. Very, very good fun. Patrice, how's your week been? Been watching the football?
I have actually been watching more football than normal because obviously it's on in the day when, one of my children is at nursery, so I can actually watch football. I'm really pleased by it because I'd say the quality of football is quite low.
Yeah.
And the quality of match is extremely high.
Yeah.
Which is is becoming my preference, I think.
No, I like to hear it. Well then, wait, guys, is someone knocking at the door? This video is sponsored by HelloFresh. Want to make your life super simple and easier? Well, HelloFresh can do just that. I quite frankly don't have enough time in the day and don't really know how to make the best meals. But with HelloFresh, they can help not just me, but you guys too. You can schedule deliveries of fresh food with step-by-step recipes for whenever you want and have it delivered straight to your door so you don't even need to leave the house. There are a range of recipes that you guys can choose from as well to help with different parts of your need. For me, I like my meals to be cooked pretty quickly, and so I've picked the ones that don't take too long. Now, HelloFresh have given me my own code to help you guys out, and by using the code ZACF4L or the link on screen right now and in the description, you'll get 60% off your first box, plus 20% off the next 2 months. And just because they weren't done, added free desserts for life. Guys, if I can do this, you can too. I've got here a Hariska chicken and couscous meal, and it may be the best thing I've ever cooked. So if you like the sound of that, scan the QR code now. Well, there we have it, guys. Make sure you use my code in the description right now for HelloFresh. Let's move on to the video then. We aren't talking about the Euro specifically right now. I thought a lot of stuff going out there about the Euros, but let's cast our attention to the Premier League and, of course, the transfer window, because I've targeted you guys a challenge. I've asked Patrick and Henry to go out and look at the Premier League and the 20 Premier League clubs that are there and to find me each club's dream signing. Now, of course, this is relative. For instance, Ipswich Town aren't going to be spending £100 million on a player, I hope. Anyway,
we'll see.
And so Patrick has 10 teams, Henry has 10 teams, and me as the transfer signing genie, sure, will basically grant 10 transfers at the end of this video. And so whoever has the most transfers granted will be the winner. And it won't be a ball draw. It won't be a 5-5. So without further ado, Patrice, your first club is going to be Newcastle United.
Newcastle United.
Let me know who your dream signing is.
Okay. So I think for Newcastle, an Almiron upgrade is definitely in order. Like Almiron, he was their 9th most used player last year, got nearly 2,000 minutes, which is crazy because you didn't really notice him relative to the year before. But I think it's fairly clear after he got 4 goal involvements last season that the 13 he got the season before was perhaps an aberration. Yeah. Was not really indicative of how things were going to go. And look, now you've got Isak and Gordon, you kind of think this attack has gone up a level and Almiron does look a little bit out of place. And obviously, there are questions around midfield and stuff, but I also think they need a ball progression plan because Bruno might go. Trippier is basically the conduit of all their kind of passing game when they don't have Bruno. And if he gets injured / ages out, because that's kind of where we are at this point in his career, I just don't know how they get the ball forward. And quite often you see them, they don't really seem to have a plan. So I wanted someone who can contribute to this attack, but can also help them move the ball up the park. So I think their best case is Alex Baena. Now, obviously, this has kind of been touted as a Villa move.
Yeah.
Villa's supposedly interested. Obviously, there's the connection there of Unai Emery. But I think Newcastle should be able to compete with him for him, even without Champions League football. They've obviously got the money.
Yeah, always.
But he also fits the kind of plan. Like, I think they overpaid for Tonali, but generally speaking, I think their transfers have been fairly clever, like since the takeover. And he's 22, 16 goal involvements in 34 games last season, including 14 assists. And I do think that I want this guy to be creative.
Yeah, so
more of a
less
creative player. Yes, exactly. Because Gordon is not a creator.
Yeah.
And Isak can do a little bit, but not really. Like, there's not a lot of creativity in this team. You know, there's no out-and-out number 10.
Yeah.
So I think that having Maina there is a pretty good player. And he's at 0.6 expected goals and assists per 90, which is elite.
Villarreal are a selling club as well.
Exactly. So you can always get him for a reasonable... Like, you'd imagine that this could be a 35 mil kind of range, which I think is totally fine. And for this player, in fact, I think it's great.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, that they can ask for more with him. He's a little bit shot-happy from range. But I think that's kind of okay because he's at nearly 3 key passes a game. Very good progressive passing numbers. I think as well, he's a little bit less of a black hole. You know, there are quite a lot of players in this attack who, when the ball goes into them, it ends in a shot or they lose it. And that's okay. That's the way that some forwards are. But you can't have like 3 guys who are all like that. I think his defensive effort could improve. He's not a huge dribbler, but he is a good ball carrier. So he picks the ball up deep and he drives on a lot, like really quite a lot for a winger, in numbers that are kind of similar to, I guess, Premier League wide players like Saka and Mitoma. Wow. You know, those guys who get the ball very, very deep and carry their team up the pitch. But he's probably not going to be beating like 3 guys around the penalty area. Again, I think that's fine. He should be looking for other players who are moving. So to me, I think this is just a good fit for a position that needs to be upgraded and for a problem that I see coming down the road in terms of Newcastle's ball progression plan.
I think like right wing especially has been spoken about, goodness gracious, like how many times about Newcastle and if they're going to improve. And like I remember when obviously Maddison moved to Spurs, we were saying he should go to Newcastle, or Newcastle should go and get him, especially for the fee
that would have been sick.
That Spurs were going to, that Spurs paid for him in the end. I like it. I like it a lot. Newcastle right wing, they have to sort out this summer if they want to try and go forward. And yeah, I guess the other contingency is about what happens with Bruno, which will surely be answered after the Copa America. Henry Hill, your team is Manchester United.
Oh, yeah.
Who are we going with?
Oh, gosh.
7 different positions.
Yeah. We were looking a whole squad overhaul for this one.
But their dream signing...
Look, dream signing is an interesting concept because I'm not just going to go like saying they're going to go out and buy the best player ever. Like, we have to bear in mind where Manchester United are as a club right now. The position... I know that Brantwaite is what's been talked about a lot, so I thought I'd leave that.
Yeah, fair enough.
Obviously, like centre half, that would be a great signing.
They probably still need another centre half as well.
I love the fact they've publicly said he's worth 80 million, and they've gone, what about 35? How would that work for you? So anyway, hopefully they get that over the line because I think that is the most classic kind of United signing ever. I'm looking at the right wing position. Obviously, Anthony is just not good enough. Yeah. He needs to go.
Sancho looks like he's gone now. They're keeping Ten Hag.
Exactly. I'm interested. I guess maybe Borussia Dortmund. I'm not really quite sure what's going on there.
I don't think they can do that.
As in, do you think Dortmund will buy him?
I don't think Dortmund have the money to pay his wages and pay his fee. And United are basically saying as well, like, in order to sell him for this price, he has to like forego these wages, right? So they're essentially saying like you give us like another 20 mil or whatever it is on top of the fee that we get. That's bollocks. Like, that shouldn't be acceptable.
The only way I can see it working is with Ian Maatsen going to Aston Villa. Borussia Dortmund were willing to pay the 35 million release clause.
Wow.
It looks like they're going to go in for Kalioglu, the Fenerbahce left back now, Borussia Dortmund, which would probably be in the 20 to 25 range. So maybe they've got some more money. I don't know. But anyway, regardless, let's say that they do move on Sancho.
Sure.
I had like a short list of Rafinha, Takefusa Kubo, or Pedro Neto on the right wing for United. Kubo, I still want to see a little bit more of him, like consistently, week in, week out. But his release clause is 60 million euros, which I think is pretty hefty for United. I've gone for Pedro Neto from Wolves. I think he's too good for Wolves. He's been linked with Arsenal quite a lot. I do think he's got electric pace. There is a big question mark.
His leggies?
There's a big question mark about injuries.
Do they work?
He still got like 9 assists last season.
And he got them like before November.
Yeah.
Really
his legs fell off.
I think for the price point at which Manchester United are playing in, around 40 million. He's quite clearly too good for Wolves. He's in the Portugal squad. We saw the impact he can make.
Not a terrible price.
You think 40 million would be what it is?
45 million. I think, given his injury concerns, he's only 24. He's only 24. I don't think he's a completely shot footballer. I do agree that he's had some problems. But with the other options that United do have, I do think Pedro Neto would be good. I mean, do I change to Kubo, do you think?
No. I think stick with Neto. I think you're right.
And in a way, I think you're right. Brentford would be great. Like, lots of players would be great, but numbers are almost more important than like just perfect players. Like, they need like 2 midfielders. They need like 2 to 3 centre backs. They need like a couple of attackers. Like they need a bunch of guys. And getting guys for like 40 mil is better than being like 90 mil and he'll solve everything. That's never worked for them.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like, the money they spent on Anthony, they could have fleshed out that squad in such a better way. So yeah, I know there is like a big question mark over Pedro Neto, but he is proven in the Premier League, and I've never watched a game of him where I've not thought this is a... He looks selfless, he looks like energetic, hard-working. I think he's kind of everything that United need. Rafinha, for me, would be too much of a big star coming in. I looks like Gnabry, maybe, but 28 years old, huge wages that he'd be on coming into the club. Can he be... So yeah, there are options out there. I just think in terms of like an honest player for the level of where United are right now, who could make an impact on that right wing, I think Pedro Neto is a really good option, and he is going to leave Wolves at some point.
No, I think it's fair enough. Pedro Neto is without a doubt a really, really good player. And when he's fit, fantastic. Like, even you see his impact for Portugal, most recently in the Euros.
That Danny Murphy going, Neto and Conceição coming on for 4 minutes. What's the point? I don't know why the managers do this. And then Neto sets up Conceição for the winner. I mean, that's some great TV.
There you have it. That's Danny Murphy in a nutshell. However, Neto I think is a good idea. I wonder whether clubs are going to basically see him, give him, like, won't go for him this year and wait to see if he can stay fit again at Wolves.
I don't know what his contract situation is. Do you?
No. It expires June 2027.
Okay, so it's a little bit of time there.
But I do but
2 goals, 9 assists.
It makes sense for Wolves to keep hold of him and hope he has a good season, his price goes up. Because it doesn't feel like the bottom has dropped out of his price. No. He's been injured a load in the last 2 years and people are still talking about 45 mil for him. So if that's the case, keep him from another year, and if he's still injured, you can probably get that.
100%. And also with them selling, I think when they sold... obviously Jota, but also Neves last year, and who spoiled it move for Man City that barely played, Nunes as well. It's allowed Wolves' financial situation to be a little bit more happier, so they don't have to sell.
I will say, if they could go to Sociedad and say, here's Anthony, we'll take Kubo in return and a bit of money, that could be quite fun. But I don't know if Sociedad would
I don't think Sociedad are that stupid, to be quite frank.
Yeah, every Spanish club for some reason thinks that it's okay to sign Mason Greenwood.
Yeah,
so they
literally.
have got that bargaining chip.
Yeah, very, very true. Okay, then. Pedro Neto from Manchester United is Henry's claim. Back over to Patrick Van Straten. And let's have a bit of fun. I gave you Fulham.
You did give me
because I also wanted to see what Henry would think on your opinion. So Fulham, who is their dream signing, still never, I guess, spent the money or got the replacement in for striker. Williams leaving, Tosin's leaving.
I just think you've got to do the Palhinha replacement. It looks like Palhinha should finally go. Though weirdly, when the price was being talked about as like 70 mil, now we're back to like sort of 45. However, I think that is excellent money. Mm-hmm. I think you can probably squeeze a bit more there if Bayern really want him. If you get like 55 million or something for Palhinha, that's sick. I think
anything 50 is good.
That would be great. So, and I think that's much more important. Like, don't get me wrong, like most of these clubs have like 3 or 4 signings they need. But I looked at a guy called Anton Stach. He just joined Hoffenheim last year, so he's had a year at Hoffenheim. He's 25, played 2,500 minutes last year, got a few goal involvements from midfield, which I like. But his defensive output is huge. 5.6 tackles and interceptions a game. I think he's about 5th or 6th in Europe's top 5 leagues. Number 1, obviously, being João Palhinha. But his passing, I think, is a bit of a level up. Like his pass accuracy is not incredible, but he's achieving a lot more with his passing.
Okay.
So we're at 5 final third entries a game compared to about 3 for Palhinha. 5.5 progressive passes compared to about 3 for Palhinha. He wins more aerial duels, like 65% of his aerial duels.
He's a big boy.
Which is like good. He is pretty big. 8 ball recoveries a game, so like mopping up loose balls as well. Like he just looks like a very natural fit for this position. Maybe a slightly better passer, maybe a slightly less rangy defender, but still very good.
Okay.
he also doesn't get dispossessed, like basically ever, which is excellent. Reportedly, because Newcastle have apparently asked about him, reportedly he could be had for under 20 million euros.
Oh.
And I think if that's the case, then I'm like, sell Palhinha, get this guy, and then go and do a forward.
And the rest.
So a lot of these, when you're like, it's their dream signing, a lot of these guys, I'm like, it doesn't like fix every problem, but not getting a forward this summer for Fulham would be less disastrous than losing Palhinha and not replacing him.
Okay, I think that's a very fair way to look at it. Look, they managed last season up top. What do you think of that, Henners, as a resident Fulham fan?
It's interesting. For another team later, I've got someone else that I was in the similar mould for Fulham. Fulham needs a number of bodies, really. I think this is the season now where Marco Silva goes to the owners. What are we doing? Do you give me the money to actually do something, or are we just going to bumble along next year and potentially get relegated? Because if we lose Palhinha, we lose Willian, Robinson could probably be gone.
Yeah, true.
I think Liverpool would be right to go in for him at this point at left back. Like Fulham, I'm not hugely optimistic about next season, especially if Marco Silva is like, well, look, I've done as much as I possibly can. This
said that before, hasn't he?
Yeah, well, he has. He's actually showed a lot more loyalty to Fulham, but I now think it's now time for Fulham's owners to show loyalty back to him.
Okay, well,
seeing as you asked, by the way, just to update you, he is 6'4".
Yeah.
Whoa, come on.
Big boy.
Get him in.
Big boy. Okay, then, from the big boys of West London and Fulham to the other West London side, Brentford, Henry Hill.
Wow, Brentford. I've really struggled with this one. Another team that needs quite a lot of work. Only the bottom three sides created fewer chances than Brentford last season. I said they would finish 15th, and I think they finished 15th. So I think, similar to what I was just saying, I think Thomas Frank is probably going to go, you need to help me. Players like Kevin Sade have not worked. Yeah, they've spent a lot of money on players. Damsgaard has not worked. They followed. Yeah. I don't know what's happened to their recruitment model, but it seems to have dropped off massively. I don't think Tony's going to be there at the end of the summer. They bought this Igor Thiago from Club Brugge, who scored.
Didn't he just get injured though? As well, didn't he do like his ACL?
He scored a ton of goals for them last season.
Yeah.
So I'm looking for like a creative winger. There's a guy called Maxim Glushenkov who's got 18 assists for Lokomotiv Moscow. But I'm not even sure you're allowed to buy someone from Moscow at this point. I don't know.
That might be quite a hard import-export situation.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. So we'll park the bus on him, but maybe one to think about down the line. This is a dream signing. I think Nottingham Forest need to sell. They bought Anthony Elanga for 15 million last year.
Oh.
I think you double their money. And give them 30 million. They tried to get Brennan Johnson, but they couldn't get it. Anthony Elanga got 5 goals and 9 assists last season. It was a toss-up between him and Oscar Gluck of Red Bull Salzburg, but he's more of a central attacking midfielder, and I think his ceiling's a bit higher. I don't think Salzburg players necessarily go to Brentford at this point. So yeah, it's like I said, this is a dream signing. I think Elanga has actually shown the real quality at Nottingham Forest. I don't think he would be bothered leaving Forest for Brentford. I don't think that's a downgrade. I think if they offered him more money, it would make sense to do. And Forest, their finances are really mysterious at the moment. I don't think their project under Nuno Espirito Santo is that fascinating. I think Thomas Frank's a better manager for him to work under at this point. Would they sell him after one season? I don't know. But I think Brentford will have money.
They've got to do something. They'd rather sell him than Gibbs White.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes, exactly. I think Brentford do have money. I think if they sell Tony as well.
Yeah.
So their money will be there to offer 30 million for someone like Elanga, Manchester United experience, Nottingham Forest experience. Like I said, 5 goals, 9 assists is a really good return for him. I think he showed a lot more quality. He's quick. He can beat players, and I think he could link up well with their forwards.
On the right wing, right, as well, I assume.
They just need, him and Mbermo could be a nice foil for each other on each side. They just need someone creative. That's why I've gone for Elanga, considering my Russian man is probably impossible to get, and Oscar Gluck. He's more of a central attacking midfielder. I'd like to see someone go in for him. Israeli wonder kid at Salzburg. I just think Anthony Elanga at this point in time, I think he went from being a slight joke at Manchester United to being a really, really good player.
No, he proved himself, definitely.
I think at that level, he could be fun. Because Brentford, with the right players, could bounce up quite high up the table, in my opinion.
Yeah.
No, I think it's fair enough.
You're right, they haven't really scaled their recruitment, have they? It's like they still sort of recruit and understandably, but they recruit as if they're top of the championship.
Yeah.
And sometimes you do just need to go a little bit harder, especially if you want to keep your manager.
Well, since they've been in the Premier League, who has been their best signing? Was Janssen at them?
They're all sort of.
Christopher Ayer, like who did they buy?
Ayer was a good.
It was meant to be like they felt it was a real coup to get the fullback who.
Rico Henry.
No, they had him for years. The other.
Well,
guy,
the Scottish one.
Yes.
Yeah, from
out of Italy.
Yeah, out of Italy.
Yeah,
it was
fine. Super informed debate here. But yeah, like that was like meant to be a big coup, and they paid a lot of money for them, and he's super young.
Yeah,
but like. You can get relegated in the time it takes a super young player to get to Premier League quality.
I do think if they'd got the Brennan Johnson deal over the line last year, that would have been unbelievable for Brentford. But obviously, Forest gambled that they didn't have to sell him before that deadline. Then he went on to Tottenham, and he's been all right. So,
and also, would Brentford have paid? Tottenham paid bottom dollar for him as well, 50 million?
Yeah,
No.
Yeah, anyway. A lot of money.
Yeah,
there.
Anthony Elanga.
Okay,
That's
interesting.
good. I like that.
Interesting as well. You mentioned. I think the other one who I think could possibly be on the move is Hudson-Odoi, considering they only spent $3 million on him.
But rumours that Spurs are interested in stuff, and I do think Hudson-Odoi probably thinks he is better than that.
Oh yeah. Oh, what than Spurs?
No, than Brentford.
Then Brentford. Oh yeah, probably. If he's going to leave
he's
Forest,
a Londoner, so like it would be a move back to London. But like, I just think that Hudson-Odoi would be like, there was a time when Bayern wanted me for like 80 mil.
Just super quickly, I think with you guys, literally last time, I said I wanted Emile Smith-Rowe to go to Brentford at one point, and I stand by that. I believe that even more this year.
Fair enough.
I believe that even more this year than I said last year.
Yep.
Smith-Rowe to Brentford would be unreal.
Well, it looks like he is meant to be leaving Arsenal. Okay, then let's do a big boy, Patrick. The Liverpudlians, Liverpool.
Okay, so Liverpool, basically, I was just like, I am bored of finding DMs for them. Like, I'm just bored of it. Like, every time it's just like, oh, what about Edison, from Manchester United? Like, we've done it 100 times, and I just like, I don't care. Like, so I was just like, mentally, let's pop Trent in midfield.
Sure.
Let's just do it, just for the sake of doing something different. And they have been interested in a right back for a while. And I think, the obvious guy is Luciano Geertruida, like from Feyenoord.
The obvious guy.
Well, yeah, like he
played
on
the
the slot last season. His contract up next summer, so you can get him for like reasonable money. He's 6 feet tall. He got 13 goals and assists from right back last season. He's just about to turn 24. And honestly, if you were trying to find somebody who could do the Trent role, he would be a guy you'd take a gamble on.
Okay.
Because he's not that active defensively, but he's got like 70% tackle success. So he is like pretty good in the tackle and lots of ball recoveries. And he's played in the Champions League for Feyenoord, obviously, as well now. But his passing is bananas. Like, his passing is absolutely crazy. Like, 90% pass accuracy while getting 8 progressive passes a game, while getting 8 final third entries a game. As a right back, he's also passing into the box a reasonable amount. He's creating a reasonable amount of chances. You can tell by double figures for goals and assists. I think the combination of having a guy who's clearly an excellent passer and is big and is young, I just think that, and probably, there have been rumours in the past that they wanted kind of 30 to 35, but like, maybe you can get him for less. But even still, I think that sometimes you buy a player and you hope it solves a position. But buying this player means that if Trent's injured, you can play him as a right back. And if Trent's not injured, then you can play Trent in midfield. And you can play Geertruida as a right back instead. Like, it allows you, I think, also to do more interesting things in and out of possession. You could even ask him to step into midfield. Like, Liverpool have been running... It's not more old-fashioned, but like... They were unusual last season in that Arsenal and Man City had quite similar plans in some ways, and Liverpool were like this totally different style of team. Well, I think that if they have him there, then it gives them the option of playing a back three, of having him step into midfield. Like, it gives them the option of doing slightly different things, and it just makes them a bit less injury prone.
The only thing I can think of which might be a negative is that, do you not think Liverpool are looking at, if they do play Trent in midfield, that's Conor Bradley's position, right back?
Maybe, but I think Bradley is like much more of a kind of flying fullback.
Yeah, he is.
And I really like Bradley, but like it's crazy to say we're just going to pin our hopes
on this kid,
on like a kid forever in that position. I think that you also could just do with having a bit more depth there. Like, everyone's going to get minutes next season. Like, they've been quite injury prone and they're back in the Champions League. Like, I just don't really think it's like that big a problem. I mean, not least because you can send Bradley out on loan. Like, you can get him regular minutes. Like, there are plenty of teams in the league who'd love to take him and give him like 2,500 minutes. So I don't know. Yeah, I can see the argument, but you could equally. Bradley was good, but it's kind of like when City were playing Rico Lewis. We were all like, "Wow, Rico Lewis looks really, really good." But also, I do think it was a factor in Man City not looking as good as they had done previously. That they were suddenly playing a kid, where they've been playing an experienced, veteran.
True, and the thing is, this Liverpool side next season are going to have so many eyeballs on them. Arne Slot's going to have so much pressure on him. But if he was to bring in some of his own guys, essentially, it might help that. It might add more pressure to it. It's going to be an interesting year.
It goes both ways, that tactic,
him.
doesn't it?
Yeah,
bringing in your own guys.
But I mean, so long as you don't overpay for them,
do that.
As long as you don't overpay for them, I think it's fine.
Sahin, was Sahin one of his guys?
No, that was pre.
Did Klopp bring anyone? Not really.
Don't think so. Interesting, yeah. Okay then. All right. So we've got 3 for Patrick. We need Henry Hill's third one, and I did Liverpool for Pat. So we're going to do Villa.
Henry. Interesting. You've picked Villa because Gertrude was one of my options because I've gone for right back at the moment. Obviously, I like the Ross Barkley signing for £5 million. I think that's pretty good for fleshing out the fields. McKennie and Illing coming in from Juventus.
Yeah,
that's
losing.
Apparently Spurs will try and trump that McKennie.
Really?
For McKennie?
Yeah, and
he's all right, McKennie.
I don't think he is. I think he's terrible.
Not that great.
Yeah, I think he's not good at all.
Yeah,
I like Illing Jr. Like, he's good.
I'm willing to back you up on that one. Matty Cash, I think, can be upgraded. I think on that right wing, I've never been overworked. I think he is a 7 out of 10 right back. Matty Cash.
At best,
At best.
They've also kind of already done like one of the things that we'd have said was like a dream transfer. Like, were you annoyed that the Maatsen thing was? I can imagine you would have been like, they could do with the left back.
Well, I guess. No, there's quite a few positions for Villa. Like, they need another striker because obviously if they sell Jean Duran, they've only got basically Ollie Watkins.
And it looks like, what's the DM? Brazilian DM.
Douglas Luiz.
Douglas Luiz looks like he might be leaving as well.
They're selling their kid. They're selling. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but it's like
Eroy Bunham.
Yeah,
who's going to Everton for about 10 mil, which I think is good.
Yeah.
So you got good academy, Villa.
Okay, this is real dream situation. I thought bringing in Maatsen looks like they might be going to a back 3 next season. They've got a lot of centre halves who are decent that we haven't really seen at the moment in time. They've also got Konsa who can play at right back if they go to a back 4. You might roll your eyes at this one, but I've gone for Denzel Dumfries at right back for Aston Villa.
That's quite punchy.
His contract expires at Inter Milan next year. Apparently, they're not going anywhere. Contract negotiations. I do this because I think Villa just genuinely seem to be in a position where they can go for these guys at the moment. I think they've got a very rich owner. He's 28 years old, Dumfries. We all know what qualities. He's got at least 4 assists in every Serie A season he's been in with Inter. He's top draw. Like, we saw him starting over Frimpong for the Netherlands. He's verbally said he wants to go to the Premier League. The other option appears to be Manchester United at the moment.
They're bringing in the Napoli right back. Is it DeMarco Di Lorenzo? Isn't he meant to be going to Inter? As well.
Well, very possibly.
I
mean, Inter is in a funny position because they've basically just had to hand over the club to Clear Lake Capital. So, yeah, you said dream signings, Zach. Get through the problem. There was about 6 Feyenoord players that kept popping up in my searches for players. So I thought, Dumfries. I think this could be a statement signing going into the Champions League. Obviously, it makes that right side of their attack, that right side of their pitch, pretty stacked with speed and pace. Defensively, I think he's all right too. I think he doesn't get enough credit for that. I think if he's available on the cheap, 1 year left on his deal, Villa do have the wages and the money available to go get these guys. Why not going for Denzel Dumfries? He's not going to get you any money back in the long term. You're not going to sell him on for much of a profit. But I think in terms of cementing where they are in the table, this could be a really cool move. And if Matty Cash is going to go, apparently AC Milan want him for like 20 million pounds, which I think would be good money for Matty Cash at this point, maybe 25. Not great money, but I mean, Villa do need to sell before the 30th of June in order to fund some of their moves. So if they can move Cash on and upgrade him with someone a bit more star power, then Denzel Dumfries, that's who I've gone for.
Villa are in a position now as well where, like, they have never looked more attractive in the last God knows how long, right? Like, they've got an incredible manager. They're playing really nice football. They've got the money to spend. They've got Champions League football to offer. And then also, as a player, like, the stadium and the fan base you're playing in front of is one of the best in the league.
I've met Mr. Sawiris before.
Oh, really?
The Egyptian owner. I've met him and his brother.
How'd that go?
On a boat in Egypt one time.
Wow.
So, yeah, spooky men. Billionaires always are.
Spooky men. I'm not surprised.
Billionaires always are.
Have you met many?
No, two.
I guess 100% record.
I get Elon Musk gives me spooky vibes, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. All right, let's do a relegation candidate. A newly promoted side / relegation candidate, I guess. Ipswich Town, Patrick.
Here we go.
Yikes.
Who is their dream signing?
So I actually did watch some Ipswich Town fan videos about this. Like, what do we need this summer? And I was just like, I haven't heard of any of these guys. But I know they're looking for a central midfielder, a goalkeeper, probably a forward.
Yeah.
They're actually, they had 6 players in double figures or something last season. Like, however, I think that's smart. But I thought I'd do a centre-back. And I was like, let's be punchy. You're in the Premier League. I do think that even teams at the bottom of the league like have significant power. Like, you've got money coming up. And I thought maybe Maxence Lacroix.
Oh,
it is punchy, but he's out of contract next year.
He is. Yes,
he's 24. He's also one of those guys, and I think this always happens. There are these guys where people are like, well, would he go there? He's been linked with Arsenal. He's been linked with Liverpool. And you're like, yeah, but being linked is like very different from it actually happening. And quite often, if you're a team lower down the league, but you've got the money and you just go straight in and you're like, right, we'll sign you up. We'll give you a 4-year contract. We'll give you 100K a week or whatever, then you can actually kind of grab a bargain if you're smart and if you're decisive. And I don't know, he probably is interested to know like where he's going to be playing football like going forward. But he's got kind of everything you want. He's experienced at the top level. He's got over 100 appearances in the Bundesliga. He's 6'3". He's fairly quick. He's not he's not like the fastest man on earth. He's
of
quick.
Course. Yeah.
And he's a good long passer. Like 7 long balls a game, about a 70% clip on his long ball attempts. That is a good thing to have because basically nobody at Ipswich was like particularly effective in those long balls last season. And I do think that you probably need to be a little bit more direct when you are playing in a league where you expect to have less of the ball.
Yeah.
So I think having somebody who can consistently hit his man is like very useful there. His progressive passing in the Bundesliga is about the same as most of the Ipswich defenders was in the Championship. So even if you have doubts about like the quality of the Bundesliga, and I do, last season, then I think, well, there's no more reason to be suspicious of his numbers there than there is to be suspicious of Ipswich players' numbers coming up. 71% tackle success. So like 70% success in the tackles that he attempts is like crazy high for a centre-back. Not too many fouls, good in aerial duels, good in ball recoveries, mopping up lots of loose balls. I think this is excellent stuff. I think that because a lot of other sides would look at him and be like, oh, is he, like we're Tottenham, is he quite good enough for us? Or, oh, well, we actually do need to sell before we can buy this summer. So maybe if he's still available at the end of the summer, then we take an interest. He'll probably end up going to Italy because these guys always do. But if a bunch of teams are umming and ahhing, waiting to sell, blah, 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 then I think Ipswich can go right in and be like, he's out of contract next summer. We'll give you a reasonable fee for him. Which probably is like 20 mil?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, funnily you mentioned him, Palace have looked at him, obviously, because the link
It'd be
with
great for
Glasner.
I mean, that would be great. That would be a great move.
I have him for Wolves. I have him down for Wolves.
Oh, okay. You give your little, you can pitch your idea as to why she goes to Wolves.
Pat's very kindly run through a lot of the numbers, so I'm not going to repeat a lot of those. But yeah, you're right. Like, he scores headers as well. Like, Craig Dawson's 33 years old, so he's aging out. Max Kilman looks like he's on his way to West Ham United this summer. They do need another centre half. They're looking at David Carmo, who just won the Conference League with Olympiacos, owned by Porto. Surprise, surprise. Yeah. That would make sense. But I think, well, you said I've got written down. Excellent tackle and clearance interception numbers. Can drive forward with the ball too. We've talked about him a lot. Certainly, we used to talk about a lot on Eurofootball Daily. 20 million euros, just as you said. Contract expiring at Wolfsburg next year. Wolfsburg to Wolves. It's just like perfect symmetry, really, when you think about it. And I think if he had a choice between Ipswich and Wolves, I think he would go to Wolves. I also think like someone like Ipswich, should be looking at someone like Joe Rodon, who had an excellent season. What was it with Leeds?
They are
Leeds.
supposedly looking at Joe Rodon.
So I think that is realistically like the level. They're going to have to pick up centre halves who were really good in the Championship last year. I think at this point in time, Wolves, pretty decent side under Gary O'Neill.
Yeah.
Bit of a bigger profile at Ipswich at this point. Don't get me wrong, I think that's really fun. For the context of this video, I think that's really fun. But I just think Lacroix to Wolves is more realistic and also would be a great addition in that back line if they lose Kilman, if they need to upgrade Craig Dawson, which they probably do at this point.
Okay. Very interesting there. Well, I'll make my decision towards the end of the video. Maybe I'll pick him for one of the clubs of the 10. Patrick, then, back to you.
Yes.
A very quick one there. Let's go with Man City.
Oh. Boring, mate. Like, I was just like, I've literally got one bullet point. I was like, just sign Bruno. Who cares? Like, it doesn't matter. I actually have not written who cares. I've written a slightly punchier version of that in my notes. But I was like Kovacic, I thought the idea was like maybe Kovacic can like spell Rodri, at 6 for a little bit, but I just don't think that is something that Pep is particularly convinced of. He tried Nunes there at one stage and he was actually kind of okay. But as much as I like Kovacic, and I do think Kovacic was like good, Bruno I do think is much more of a threat. If you wanted to play him in that kind of 8 role and allow him to get into the box and try and score goals, he'll do it. Like, especially that first half season at Newcastle, he was a big goal threat and he's pretty creative. And I do think if Rodri got injured, which is always the thing we talk about every year,
never does,
having Bruno there would be extremely helpful.
Yeah.
A guy who could just sit in that role. And I think he's probably the closest you've got in the Premier League to a guy who would perform that role. Like there are other defensive, like Rice is good, but I don't think Rice. I think Bruno is more stylistically similar to Rodri than Rice is. Is how I look at it. But he could definitely play with him too, and like is a true box-to-box midfielder. Like always huge defensive numbers, always huge progressive passing numbers. Wouldn't look out of place in City's passing game at all. Good eye for a goal. Creative, decent age. Price doesn't matter because you're Man City, and you can just sort of move on and like quietly pretend that like some of your moves recently didn't happen. Plus, I think City might lose Pep at the end of next season, and maybe less so with this version of the team than previous versions of the squad. But often with City squad construction under Pep, I've thought a little bit like this is good for now. But if Pep suddenly announced, I'm leaving at the end of the season, you'd be a bit like, can anybody else make this squad work in quite the same way he can? Like, obviously, there are fantastic players, but like, can somebody else like create a title-winning side with like Gvardiol playing left back all season? Like, is that possible? Maybe they can, but I don't know. There probably aren't that many managers who could do it. And I do think having Doku, having Haaland, like these kind of guys make you a little bit less fragile in that way. Like, almost any decent manager should be able to get a tune out of those kind of guys. I think Bruno's another one of those players. Bruno's just got such huge output in so many different dimensions that it's almost impossible to imagine a manager who couldn't get something useful out of him.
Yeah.
And so I think, there are rumours that Pep's contract's up next season. There are rumours he's not going to renew.
Yeah.
There are also rumours that Man City are going to pull up the dump truck and just pile money
give him a massive island,
drown him in golden oil and see what happens.
$500,000
Your family friends will all be rich.
Yeah, exactly. but I do think that this kind of move, like, no one will think about the fee if it's Man City, and he basically safeguards your midfield for the next half decade.
And again, any other club he goes to, Bruno, obviously he's been linked to Arsenal as well, right? If he'd
also be great for Arsenal.
But if he goes to a Man City, it's kind of what you mentioned. No one kind of bats an eyelid at that price tag as much, and they don't get the same pressure as he was playing for an Arsenal. Like any player that is super expensive and goes to Man City, kind of I feel gets a bit of a free pass in terms
no one
of
talks
being
about
looked at as really bad.
Fee.
Yeah,
no one,
most expensive centre back in the world.
Like Grealish had like a pretty bad first season there, and everyone was just like, oh well, if that had been like Chelsea or Arsenal or anyone, everyone would have been like, my God, this is the most embarrassing thing that's ever happened.
Yeah, I mean, it helps as well when you go on to win the Premier League. But very, very interesting.
But they're not going to win the Premier League next season, are they, Zach?
No, they're not. It's going to be Enzo Maresca's the substitute, because Arteta's the substitute man to lift it.
Oh, sure.
We'll see.
Thank you.
We'll see. Okay, then, we're talking about Arsenal. Henry Hill, Arsenal Football Club.
Yeah, I mean, it's a similar boat really to what Pat was talking about. I'm looking for a midfielder to go
So you
along.
think midfielder over a striker? Yeah.
Yeah, at this point.
Cool.
I consulted the Arsenal Oracle, which is George Wright, and he also confirmed this. Bruno G is the dream signing, but in his words, and according to online, Man City are ahead of him in terms of, which I think is kind of a shame. I'd quite like to see him go to Arsenal. Then there's two more names really. João Neves, who plays for Benfica. Super young, super high release clause. We're looking in the hundreds of millions. I don't think Arsenal should be paying another £100 million for a central midfielder, which goes to the other option. It's not like boring, but this is the most practical option because really,
Frankie de Jong.
No, at the top. Well, he's now cooked because he's now injured again, isn't he? Or that is a good option. I've gone for Martin Zubimendi of Real Sociedad.
Hasn't he also said like I'm not leaving this summer?
No, that's definitely not been said. I mean, look, he has a €60 million release clause, which is entirely accessible. For Arsenal. There's not loads of midfielders that fit the profile of what Arsenal are after, kind of a box-to-box midfielder to go next to Rice. This guy has 144 appearances in La Liga for Real Sociedad, coming out of the Sociedad Academy, which I think carries a bit of weight at this point in time. He's from the same area as Mikel Arteta, an area which seems to produce football geniuses at this point in time up in the Basque Country. He's a metronome in midfield, 25 years old, really strong defensive numbers, an aerial win rate around 70%, like huge passes into the final third, which is what you're looking for an Arsenal player. Strong ground duel winning and interception numbers too. He's in the Spain squad for a good reason. This is a quote he gave to Mundo Deportivo, which I think makes him really, really good for Arsenal, for the kind of mentality which they operate with now. You have to have sufficient humility to devote yourself to the team, he said. The first thing is the collective, not being individualistic. It's about being constantly helpful, whether it's for the defensive line or your teammates higher up. So I think he is someone that will give himself for the team. I think considering the big personalities already in that midfield, Odegaard, Declan Rice, to have like Zubimendi just going about his business, smashing balls around, €60 million, Spanish international. Come on.
Did he play with Odegaard at Sociedad?
Yes, he would. He would have definitely played. They would have definitely crossed paths. He's trained under Xabi Alonso.
The only thing I just feel like is a DM ever going to come out and be like, "I'm the main man here"?
Well, I think Sociedad is. It's not like a team of stars. It's
no.
It's all,
he's been wanted by a few clubs,
really
isn't he? Barcelona, I think we're looking at him for a while.
It's not a hugely sexy name compared to like Frankie de Jong, which would be fun, or Bruno. But I'm not going to say João Neves and just say, you should spend 100 million on a 19-year-old after one good season at Benfica. People have done that, João Felix, and it's not necessarily worked out. So I think Zubimendi, in terms of actually getting what Arsenal need at a price point, which allows them to go and do other things, I don't think it's a bad option whatsoever.
Okay, nice. I like it. And to a degree, the dream also has to have a bit of realism there as well, doesn't it? Okay then, Patrick. The other Liverpudlian side, Everton. Who, again, financial issues themselves. Looks like they might be selling Brentford, might be selling Onana.
Yeah, they're quite hard to recruit for.
Did we all see the clip of Amadou Onana's some journalist being like, Andre, and he's like, turns round.
It's not even my name, mate.
It's not even my name, mate. And it was the craziest English accent I've ever seen. Did you?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Okay, and let's get back to it then. Everton.
Okay. So yeah, there are quite a lot of guys that I could have gone for here, to be honest with you. Like they have some needs, I would say. And like obviously they want a striker, and every year they're like, we just need a finisher. And you're like, every team needs a finisher. Those players are quite hard to buy. And also this idea that there are players out there that are good finishers, there are like not really. Like we now can actually work this out, and like the vast majority of players, including players you think of as elite finishers, finish at about the rate XG suggests. And there are a few players who are a bit over. And there are a couple of players who are in the stratosphere. Yeah, Son being one, Messi being one. Like, McNeil got 9 from 12 XG last season. Doucouré got 8 from 12. Calvert-Lewin got 9 from 15. Beto got 3 from 7. So that's 17 XG right there that didn't turn into goals. Yeah. You know?
But Calvert-Lewin and Beto were the significant.
And I do, and I think there's evidence certainly that Calvert-Lewin across his career, I think, is like a below average finisher. Yeah. There's no real evidence to think that with Beto, and I just think that next season you would expect to get more goals, like just because you're not going to get unlucky. Every player isn't going to finish badly again next season. That's just not how it works, and it's certainly never been the case for Dyche teams. people used to make this argument with Potter, but you can't make it with Dyche.
Yeah.
In fact, his teams used to overperform. You've also got Shemiti. So I kind of think you've got a roll with those forwards to some degree. You can maybe get a winger or something. I left centre midfield as well because of your boy out of Villa. So I kind of thought I'd get a fullback because I think Dyche doesn't trust Patterson. He's 21, but Dyche doesn't trust him.
Not.
They've just given Ashley Young a new contract. He's 38. He got 2,300 minutes last season.
Loves it. Absolutely loves it.
And was crap. Like, I'm sorry, but like, obviously Dyche is like, look, he does what I want him to do. That's fine. But like, when you watch him, I think he's pretty dreadful. Statistically, he's pretty dreadful. Just get a fullback.
They gave Coleman a new contract as well.
No, man. Like, they've done this for a while where they're just like, we'll just kick the can down the road. And to some degree, if they can stay in the Premier League while doing that and just get another year of revenue, another year further away from financial ruin, like sell a player and just like keep things rolling, then I'm fine with it. But the player I've got for them is just like
good
and cheap. Like it's Marwan Sanaya from Strasbourg. He's 23 years old. He's nearly 6 foot tall, just under. And really good defensively. 60% aerial wins, 4.8 tackles and interceptions a game, over 60% success in the tackle. So one-on-one, very good. In the air, very good. Pretty young, but not so young that like Dyche is going to look at him and be like, I need grey hair. Like, if I'm going to trust you. Like, I just cannot play a guy who's young. He's also a decent mover. He's got over a dribble a game, which is quite unusual for a fullback. Progressive carrying, doesn't get dispossessed like ever.
Okay.
Like, gets dispossessed like once every 2 games, which is exceptionally low. And he also crosses quite a reasonable amount and is quite successful with his crossing. And Everton do cross a lot.
Yeah,
like
that's the game plan.
They cross a lot. And I think having a guy there who can do a bit of that, but who's basically like pretty solid in the one-on-one as well, would be a useful guy to have. Like, at the moment, it seems like they're caught in this position where they're like, well, Patterson could be good, though he is 21. He needs to be playing if he's going to be really good. Ashley Young is not good at this stage, but at least like he'll do what he's told. Like, Dyche trusts him to execute a tactical plan. Just find someone in between. This is not a workable system, you know? And he's got resale value too. I just think that low risk signings for low money, low risk, good resale value. This is what Everton have to do. Like, if Everton sell a player for like 60 mil this summer, they should go out and get like 5 guys for like 10 to 20 mil. Like, this is like going and getting Nero Bunham, like is I think just really smart. Like, rather than being like, I guess we'll turn that money around and get a £40 million midfielder or something. I just think it's silly. Like, even Onana looks like he'll be a big success for them if they sell him. But they're talking about sort of 55, 60 million sale. Well, they paid 35 mil. So, like, you're not actually making a colossal sum of money. Yeah. He's not like a bargain they found. They actually paid a lot for him when they got him. So I just think Everton have got to kind of like roll with some cheap signings and hope for the best. And I think he's not going to be terrible. And if you pay like 15 mil for him, worst case, you can probably sell him back to France for half of that.
Okay. I think it's tough, and also it's tough with just the situation they're in right now. Money-wise, it's hard to just any player because they're going to be super rich, super expensive, whatever happens.
Sure.
Okay, then. Henry Hill, one of the new boys, Southampton.
Gosh. I like this one.
Did you just say Flynn Downs?
No, it's so funny. So they bought Harwood Bellis for 20 million. They bought Adam Lallana.
They have just brought in Adam Lallana.
They're going to apparently buy Ryan Fraser, which I think is a mistake. Apparently they're linked with Nathan Redmond again. They're getting
the band back together. What's Lambert doing nowadays?
I read one.
Don't they supposedly want Ings back too?
That would not shock me.
No, yes, no. They do want Danny Ings. They do want Danny Ings back as well.
Armstrong and Che Adams. Okay.
I read some Reddit.
What are they doing?
Some Reddit bloke said I would rather defrost Ricky Lambert than bring back Nathan Redmond to
get
Southampton.
Lettice in there. Lettice will be like, he'll have his gas mask on. He'll be talking about chemtrails or
it's
something.
a complete joke. Southampton wanting to do this. So I've looked at them wanting to bring back Danny Ings, and I thought that is boring.
Does that mean they're going to get rid of Che Adams or Armstrong then?
No, they should not get rid of either of those players. They're the only players that scored them any goals last year.
Okay.
Armstrong got so many goals.
Armstrong does play sometimes. He can play
he's unreal
with and stuff. Yeah.
Ings is a following on what Pat said. Ings is a good goal scorer. Like he was a good goal scorer.
4 years ago.
I have gone for Borja Mayoral. Borja Mayoral from Getafe. This guy is not particularly exciting, but he scores goals. Last year, he got 15 goals and 1 assist for Getafe. He's played for Real Madrid and Roma, where he got 10 goals in 1,500 minutes. Last year, 0.6 goals per 90, which is really high. It's one of the best in La Liga. And just over 1 goal every 4 shots. He's 27 years old, and he has a €15 million transfer market valuation. Getafe do not have that much money. According to FBref, he's on like 90 grand a week at Getafe, which seems not true. Anyway, Mayoral, he's been around for a very long time, playing like at top level. I don't see why Southampton couldn't come in for 15, 20 million euros and take him off Getafe's hands. I actually feel really good about this signing. I think he will be in the right position to score goals. The way that they play football under Russell Martin is pretty exciting, knocking the ball around. He's a really good tactical manager. He just needs someone in the box to plonk them away. I don't think Che Adams is that guy. Get Mayoral in there, just get the ball to him and let him do the simple things in the box. I really like Mayoral as a player. He's been in the Spanish squad at various points over the years. Like I said, came through at Real Madrid. Come on, why not?
I can't call Southampton next season at all. Like, they just kind of scream going back down at the moment.
You never know. The thing about Southampton is they've got like a good structure. They've got like a great training ground. They've got good behind. They're pretty good behind the scenes. They seem. It was a bit. I guess.
But it's weird. They went through like a year basically. Being like, okay, we're gonna get all these like young, highly talented, highly rated academy products. Where they brought in Lavia. I think they've still got the goalkeeper as well. Who's the centre back? Then went
Bazunu was someone I looked at potentially upgrading as well.
But then who was the centre back they sent on loan to Germany? Was it Stuttgart? And he was good in the Premier League.
He's double barrel. Carmel Bella Kotchap.
Exactly, yeah, Bella Kotchap. And they went like this, and then it seems like they've just gone. Screw that. Bring the old boys back.
When they signed Paul Onuachu in January, that was one of my favourite transfers of all time.
Okay, well, there we have it. Very interesting what they're going to get up to. Patrice, Spurs.
Oh, all right. Number 6, that's what they need.
Yeah.
And it's easy. Fofana. Contract up to 2025. 25 years old. 8 goal involvements last year. And actually, I think got 3 and 4 like coming into the Euros for France as well. I don't know what was going on there. But he is a DM, really. Or rather, he is a deeper lying midfielder. He's a central midfielder. Okay. So defensive actions went down last year to just over 3, but previously they've been around 4 a game, which is like fairly solid. It's not like spectacular, but it's good. What's interesting to me is that he is quite press resistant. So 1.5 dribbles a game, 60% success rate in the dribble. Like, I think that is something that you need a little bit more, especially in Postecoglou.
Yeah.
Like having the guy who can like wriggle out of a bit of pressure and then spring an attacker, I think would be insanely valuable to them. I mean, Basuma should be able to do it, and Basuma had moments this season, but Basuma is always a bit erratic.
Yeah.
And Fofana might be more reliable. I don't know. It's hard to tell, until he's playing there. But I think having like a guy who can move a bit more in midfield is helpful, because I think guys like Bentancur and Højbjerg are maybe more reliable passers than Basuma, but they're not always the most mobile.
Yeah.
Or at least not on the ball. 8.5 progressive passes a game is like absolutely crazy. It would rank 3rd at Spurs because Spurs are a super aggressive side, but he's doing that in a much less aggressive side. So you imagine putting him in a team where where that's his job, to pass forward, and it could really, really pop. He can also do some final ball too. So passes into the penalty area. He'd rank 2nd in among all the Spurs midfielders after Maddison.
Wow.
So he can actually get forward and play the final ball. And I do think as well, we all know what happened to them when Maddison went down this season, where we were just like...
Where's the creativity?
I mean, it didn't help that Kulusevski was in bad form, but I think that Fofana is just like it's kind of a no-brainer. Like, he's got so little time left in his contract. He's the right age. He'll probably be the right price. He's got everything you'd want in the numbers. Mm-hmm. This just seems sensible to me.
Right. I think it's a very good shout. Very, very good shout. It's funny because at the start of the season, Basuma was like given so much praise, and that we finally turned it around at Spurs. Come the end of that season, they all want to change it and get another player in. Henry Hill, big one here. Chelsea, talk to me.
Yeah.
Talk to me.
Nobody, don't sign anybody.
Yeah, I found this quite boring, to be honest with that. I wasn't really sure. Okay, so obviously you're looking at this Omorodian guy.
We're looking for a striker, by the looks of it.
Atletico, he got 8 goals for Alaves last season. The only reason I think I can see why you're going for him is he's 20, and you're hoping that he will.
Isn't he a big boy as well, or not? Am I imagining?
He is big, but I don't know what's wrong with Jackson.
I don't think anything's wrong with Jackson. I think they just think we need a different profile. I like a bigger forward.
It feels like one of those things where like the fans just think like Jackson is maybe like not great. And so they're like, well, we have to sign somebody else, otherwise, like the fans will be annoyed.
He did all right last season.
He did really well last season.
He did last season.
I don't understand the negativity towards him. Second season, he should only get better. I actually think Ivan Toney would be a good option potentially for Chelsea at this point in time. However, for a bit more fun, I've gone for Santiago Jimenez of Feyenoord. I think this is someone that I could definitely get. 23 years old, Mexican striker. He got 23 goals and 6 assists last season. He got 15 the year before that. He defo wants to move out of Feyenoord. He's done being there, especially now Arne Slot has left. He's very fast, loves taking people on. According to Saliba, I was looking, he's got a similar kind of profile to Victor Gyökeres, who would be your dream signing. But I don't think you're going to pay the money to get in your current state to get him out of Sporting. What a glow up that guy's had. So yeah, I just think he could be. If you're going to pay £40 million, whatever it is, for this Omorodian guy with add-ons, I don't see why you shouldn't put that into Jimenez, who's had a much more successful career, is not much older. Okay, he's under 6 foot, so he's a bit smaller. But as a foil to Jackson up front, I think it's a nice option. I think he's just a good striker, and I think he could work well in tight spaces, which tends to be the way at Stamford Bridge. You're not as convinced.
I think it's good.
It's like I said, either him or Ivan Toney. I think Toney would be the Premier League experience, slightly cocky guy that would make sense as well. But if you want something a bit more exciting, then yeah, Jimenez of Feyenoord. He's definitely going to be available. I don't think Feyenoord asked for crazy money for their players at this point in time. And I think, they're going to have to let him go. So this is who I've gone for Chelsea on the basis that they're going for Omorodion, who's not even
or Duran,
who's not. Yes, neither players who've really done anything at this point.
Yeah. Well, you know what Duran can do? He can hit a ball really hard.
Maybe, but
which I think might be the category. Okay,
hitting the ball hard.
Yeah.
Favourite shit.
It is a good. Yeah.
Okay, on to another club. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Chelsea. God knows.
Is it?
God knows. Patrick, give me your Nottingham Forest shout, please.
This is perhaps my punchiest shout of all. Forest are very shot light, I would say. They were 6th bottom in the league last year for shots, but they were about half a shot away from being 2nd bottom. No one was getting near Sheffield United.
I think he was, what's his face? Striker was injured, wasn't he, for a while?
Yeah. But, past the penalty area, same. Like, I just think they don't really have a lot of creativity there. They don't have a lot of shots there. Getting a guy who gets some of both would be very good.
Who is it?
I think they need to do something smart, Zach. I think they need to call in favours here. I think they need to. Well, honestly, right? Okay, they do need to sell, and so I don't think they can afford to just go in like if I say like a £30 million attacker, then we're just going to be like that's stupid. They should go to Real Madrid, and they should
say Gula.
Yeah, I am going to say Arda Güler. Like, why not? Just do it.
What do you mean, just do it?
Is it not a dream signing?
Oh, yeah, screw it, man.
It is a dream signing, but I think this is...
I don't think Arda Güler is going to play much next season.
I agree to that point.
I really
genuinely agree to that point.
I really like him,
Definitely.
but I also thought you could ask PSG if they'll loan Barcola, but he actually paid a lot last season.
Yeah.
Do you think there's any chance he doesn't go on loan to a Champions League club? I think Borussia Dortmund, for example, would look at him as a Jadon Sancho.
That'd be fantastic, but if a team like that doesn't do that, or if they can't afford wages or something, Forest probably can do the wages.
Right, fuck it. Good idea.
I don't know. I mean, I know, look, Arsenal and Forest are not the same, but like when Odegaard, who had a much higher profile, went to Arsenal were terrible, absolutely dreadful, and I was shocked that we managed to get him.
Yeah.
And the same goes for like other guys that they've had over the years. Like,
come on, Arsenal are way bigger than...
I know they are, but like I'm just saying, like I do think that there are punchy loans that you can get sometimes.
Brighton got Ansu Fati last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Brighton
Shut up.
were playing in the Europa League, had a progressive style of football.
Yeah, true.
Arda Güler is a big star right now.
Forest do have like Nuno though, which I do think is like more of a sell in Spain.
If Güler had a stinking time at Madrid, I could understand
He's
it.
injured all year, so it was pretty stinking. He played,
But
like
he still
300
scored.
minutes.
He scored
6 goals in 400 minutes, but he played 400 minutes. You know, like he was great. When
And
he
now
played.
they've added Endrick, Mbappe.
That's the issue. Okay, so like Kroos retiring, you're like, great, minutes for me. Mbappe joining, you're like, oh god. And so now you've got Mbappe, Vinicius, Rodrigo, Bellingham, Camavinga, Tchouaméni, Valverde. Not all of those guys can play at once, and that's before we've even got to Güler. That's before we've even got to Endrick. Now I think Güler would probably play more than Endrick, but I'd just be like, if I'm sitting on the bench and Rodrigo's on the bench next to me, then I'm a bit like, when do I play?
When do I
like,
get my minutes?
Maybe I'm being a bit unkind. Like, they play in a lot of competitions. He will get minutes next season. There'll probably be a load of injuries because football has decided it doesn't care about player welfare and just adding more games constantly. But I would look at that and I'd be like, when am I going to play? He's a volume shooter. He's a volume creator. He's a volume dribbler. Like 3 shots a game, 3.5 dribbles a game. Created 4 chances a game when he was in Turkey, which is like crazy levels. I think it's a really tough sell. Don't get me wrong, but I don't know. If I were Forest, I'd be like, what are we going to do here? Like
the loan fee itself would be huge.
I don't think it necessarily would be if you said like, what you could do, for example, is work it out where what they often do, which is we will pay you this loan fee, and if he doesn't play 2,000 minutes, then we'll pay you like 5 mil more.
Yeah.
So if you could say, all right, okay, we're going to start him every game. If he's fit, he'll get 2,000 minutes. We'll give you 3 million. And Real Madrid are like, well, we want 9 million. And you're like, okay, if he doesn't play 2,000 minutes, we'll compensate you for that. I think that's probably a way you can do it. But also, if you end up getting relegated or something, if you get a big points deduction or something else happens, and relegation is definitely a possibility, it helps you that you're like, back to Real Madrid you go, we don't think about this anymore. I also feel like there's somebody else I've thought about in this way before. I feel like Madrid used to loan people all over the gaff.
Odegaard was the big one, wasn't he? He used to go to a few
crazy.
different places.
But Barcelona used to do it as well, and you would just see these guys like pitch up at places, I know it wasn't a loan, but like Boyan going to like Stoke, like this kind of stuff does happen.
Boyan was on the way down in a big way at that point. I love this. I like it for the fun of it. I just think that they're not going to send him to a team that are potentially going to be losing 2 out of 3 games because I think it could stifle.
I agree.
It could stifle his star power.
I agree. Like, I don't think it's going to happen. However,
it is good fun.
However, if I were Forest, I would be like, Nuno Espirito Santo is not like I say. He's like, it's not like they're like, here's this English guy who you've never heard of in your life, like ringing Real Madrid and saying, have you got any players?
Yeah.
Like, I do think Nuno could be like, we're a reasonably progressive side, and I do think that we can like offer him time and a role.
I like. Henry Hill,
Negative.
from Real Madrid loanee to Leicester City, newly promoted, starting with minus 10 points.
Yes.
Losing their manager. But no, they just have hired Cooper, though.
Is that official?
I think that's official now.
Well, I think that's a good. I think that's really good.
Either or.
I think that's really good addition.
Who is joining Cooper at Leicester?
Sorry, did you say they've hired him?
I think they've literally hired him.
Because there are rumours they were going to get Potter.
No, I think they announced. I think before we
I
did
don't know
this,
what
I
Graham
saw an
Potter's
announcement
doing.
of Cooper.
Potter's better than Cooper. Should have got Potter.
I agree, but I think Cooper's still pretty good for.
Let me double check.
what they're in.
Go on, Henry. Do your talk to me.
Okay. Leicester need a lot of work. This squad.
Are they actually starting with 10 points down?
Yeah, they are definitely starting with minus 10 points. Yeah.
So Vardy, Vestergaard staying. Dewsbury Hall too. That's literally their only sellable asset at this point. He's staying.
Yep. Steve Cooper appointed.
Iheanacho gone. Albrighton gone. Dennis Pratt gone. They need someone else who could play. Yeah, they need a lot. They have no money. I know they've just spent. They bought Abdul Fatawa, who you recommended actually for someone.
I like him.
You recommended him for someone, and he's gone to Leicester and been really good. So they've got him. I think they need bodies in there. I've gone for Aloni or Fabio Carvalho from Liverpool.
He needs minutes as well.
He needs minutes. He had a miserable time at RB Leipzig last year. It was ridiculous because they got Xavi Simons and him in the same breath, and then Simons just played and he didn't. He then went to Hull, where he basically played centre forward or just off the striker and got 9 goals and 1 assist in half a season, which is really good. So it shows if you put a loving arm around him, he is a really good player. I obviously am slightly biased because he was at Fulham, and I thought he was exceptional.
He's super talented.
No,
He's a really talented guy. He could be, like, you can't have Vardy playing every minute. I don't think Patson Daka has proven he can be relied on to play all the time. So get Carvalho in. He can play on the wing. He can play behind the striker. He can play striker as well. I think someone like Steve Cooper, look what he did for Brendan Johnson. He could do great things for Carvalho. It's an amazing club, Leicester. Amazing facilities. It'd be perfect for him. I think he'd play good football there. I mean, I was reading he wants to try and get in the Liverpool squad. He's not going to get in the Liverpool squad. I'm sorry, he's just not going to get in. Arne Slot is not going to be taking a chance.
He had a little bit of a falling out, didn't he, with Klopp in the end?
I don't know about that.
He thought Klopp thought his family and friends and that were saying weren't helping him by basically suggesting that he should be starting every game.
Well, I don't know. I think last year was a bit of a humbling experience for Carvalho, having to go to Hull and rebuild there. I think he's clearly Premier League ready. He needs minutes. Get him to Leicester City. I think as a loanee, maybe they could get an option to buy if he does well.
This is actually a really, really
I really like it.
This is excellent. Yeah,
I really like it.
Gone for it.
Okay, love that, Henry Hill. You both got 2 more each. Let's blast through them. Patrick's got West Ham and Brighton. Henry, you've got Palace and Bournemouth.
Oh, yes.
Let's do the derby then.
It's gone on this video, hasn't it?
Let's do the derby. Brighton for you, Patrick, the new Palace straight after.
Brighton, I've gone central midfielder. I know that you like Billy Gilmore.
No. Do not say to replace Billy Gilmore.
No, but Gross is going, right?
Yeah.
And Baleba, I think, is quite promising.
Yeah.
But, he's 19. And Gilmore is a good passer, but not a good defender. He was 12th in the squad for defensive actions. He's below João Pedro and Welbeck, which is not my favourite thing. And Huertela at St. Pauli used a lot of centre-back stepping into midfield, which I think actually could work quite nicely.
What do you think quickly as well of the hiring?
I don't know, bro.
I saw a lot of people making out the things what was he, 31, 32?
He's 31. Yeah. It's exactly the sort of stuff I want Brighton to be doing. I love it when Brighton do stuff like this. And also you're we constantly are there are no good managers anywhere, and Brighton are bullshit. There's a guy in Bundesliga 2, and we're going to get him in. And I just think that's exciting. Brighton turn things up where I'm just from nowhere. I would never know who half their players were if they hadn't just gone and got them.
And then a year and a half later, we're all going, oh my God, everyone's after Brighton's manager.
Brighton make football feel less predictable, more interesting, and that's what it should be. So I like that. But he used a lot of centre-backs stepping into midfield, and I would love to see if he's ever fit. I'd love to see Webster do that. I still love Webster. He's still only 28, you know. I do think that would suit him really well. It'd even suit Dunk well, potentially.
Igor, they've got that Brazilian centre back, Igor.
But I think that means that having more mobile midfielders who can maybe go from, just kind of shielding the back line into turning into runners, I think is quite good. I was thinking about Khéphren Thuram, who I love, but I think that's a bit punchy. I think Arsenal should consider him for that.
Liverpool were looking at him last year, weren't they?
Yeah, but I think they've kind of filled that role. Yeah. But I think Arsenal, he'd make a lot of sense for a great mover and actually really, really good. I am just going to do Khéphren Thuram.
Who's going to be your other child?
No. We'll go on something later. But nobody has pulled the trigger on him. Despite the fact that he's been a big name around for ages, he's obviously huge because he's Lilian Thuram's son. He's got a reported price tag of 20 mil because he's got a year left on his deal.
Wow.
He's 23, but he's had 5 full seasons in Ligue 1, which is crazy. That's seriously blooded. And with Nice as well. And Nice have been pretty good the last 2 seasons. But he's a phenomenal ball mover.
He's crazy.
He's a great runner. He's in the top 7% in his position for dribbles and progressive carries. He dribbles constantly. But he's still okay defensively. He's been between kind of 2.5 and 4 defensive actions per 90, depending on his role, his whole career, which is very solid. He's in the top 14% of midfielders for expected goals and assists per 90. He rates really well.
Solid. But did he have a bad injury? Am I imagining that?
Not recently, I don't think.
Okay.
But the thing about that is, he hasn't actually got that many goals and assists. From his XG. So the last 2 years, XG would predict 15 goals and assists over those 2 seasons. So not huge, but 7 or 8 each season. And he only actually got 8 because his teammates couldn't finish chances. So I think, in a way, that probably means that other teams look at him and they're like, oh, he hasn't got very many goals and assists. What's the point of having a box-to-box midfielder if you can't do it? And maybe you can get him for slightly less money. He's doing less progressive passing than before, but when he was 21, he was at like 5 balls into the final third a game, and he's just changed role. So it's not that he can't do it; it's that he's doing different stuff. So I look at this as I'm like a guy who can defend and do progressive passing. He can run. He can burst into the box. He's an amazing dribbler. I don't know. I just think like he's a fantastic player. He's the right price point. And if a big team isn't going to go and get him, Brighton should say, look at what we've done for players. Even if you're more ambitious than us, look at the moves we've got for our players. And I think he'd be interested.
And they're also more than willing to sell a player after one season as well. Like Brighton have done that several times, where one guy has a banging season, they move him on.
Just bring him in with like a 50 mil release clause.
Yeah.
Why not?
No, I love it. Okay, then to their rivals, Henry Palace.
Yeah. Okay. I've gone on the proviso that they sell Elise and they need a right winger.
Yeah.
There's Edin Jagrova from Lille, 6 goals, 6 assists.
Did he actually play last season? Because he always has crazy numbers, and then you find out he's played like 700 minutes.
Wow. He got 6 goals and 6 assists last year, so he must have been on the pitch at some point.
Sure.
I think though his direction is up. I'm looking at Palace. I'm thinking great manager. They just got like Kamada in. I know that's because of the relationship with the manager, but they can get good players in through the door. I'm looking at great players who had a bad season last year who they can resurrect, and that's why I've gone for Samuel Chukwueze from AC Milan.
Yes, Henry.
So right winger,
Yes, Henry.
really hard.
Makes a lot of sense.
Really hard season last year at Milan.
So you're doing it based off Elise leaving?
Based off Elise leaving.
Yeah, even if he doesn't, like Elise spends half the season injured every season.
Yeah, very true, very true.
What's wrong with having Chukwueze then?
They can spend money. He got 3 goals and 3 assists last year. 2 of those were in the Champions League. Pulisic totally outplayed him on that side of the pitch. I look at De Ketelaere, that incredible loan spell he's just had at Atalanta. Wow. I wonder if that will resurrect his career at Milan. I think Chukwueze needs similar treatment. He was at Villarreal before, which isn't...
He was good.
He's not too good for Crystal Palace at this point in time, given the money, the wages. Only got 24 Serie A appearances, most of which were off the bench. I really like Chukwueze. I think there's a really good player in there.
Yeah, me too.
I think someone like Crystal Palace, if they lose Elise, even if not, because he can play in a front 2 or he can play on the wing as well. I've always liked Mateta. Pleased to see him doing all right. So yeah, I think get someone like Chukwueze. I don't know if it'd be a loan. I don't know if it'd be a loan with an option to buy. I don't know if they just say to AC Milan, he only paid like 20 million plus 8 million in add-ons from last year. If they just say, look, we'll give you an easy profit on that straight away, even though he did nothing for you, I think Milan might bite your hand off. So yeah, it's a bit punchy. He's still quite young as well, but I've gone for Samuel Chukwueze to Crystal Palace.
I like it.
I really like that as well. Well done, Henry. Okay, your last one, Pat, then. West Ham. Talk to me.
Paquetá is going, right? Paquetá is going
to jail.
To prison. To football jail.
Football jail.
Another one.
Like, it's fairly clear he's going to get an insane ban, and so he should, because it's not like betting on a game, it's influencing a game in order to win a bet.
Yeah.
Rumours are the Premier League wants to do a lifetime ban, which I don't think is unreasonable. I think
FIFA might as well.
I think you've got to make an example of somebody when they're like actually changing a football match to do this. They're not just like, oh, I bet on a game I wasn't involved in at all. So big problem for West Ham. He was second top for chances created last season, top for passes into the final third, top for passes in the penalty area, top for progressive passes. Jeez, he's good.
He's pretty good.
He's one of the best defensive kind of cogs. So, bit rough. But I do like who I've got here, which is Desiree Doué. We talked about Desiree Doué.
He is a player.
He's at Rennes. He's still only 19.
Who's this for?
West Ham.
Oh, yeah, fun.
He got 8 goal involvements last year, played across the midfield, so can kind of play all midfield roles, or at least did last year. Obviously, Rennes have now got like a really interesting core of guys, you know, like with Lefebvre and like a bunch of guys. There are honestly so many interesting players at Rennes. I think you could get Doué off them. I don't know what it will cost. Rumours are Arsenal interested, which I would love. I would love it, Zacco. But he's an amazing final third passer. 2.5 passes into the penalty area. Nearly 7 progressive passes a game. More than Paquetá. More chances created than Paquetá. More shots than Paquetá. Not as much deep work, but pretty reasonable defensive output.
Yeah.
And 3.5 dribbles a game at a 60% success rate. So he's a volume dribbler and a successful dribbler. Like, when he dribbles, he succeeds. And like, when you watch him, you're just looking at somebody who you're like, he's too good for this competition. Like when you watch him dribble in Ligue 1, it's like when you watch, you know, like like an Adidas advert, and they're like, "Oh, Jude Bellingham's playing with all these kids," and you just watch him like glide past people. It's funny.
He's ridiculous.
He's also got 10 progressive receptions a game and loads of carries. So like, he's actually also kind of functioning as an outlet. So I think you can play him in more of a midfield role and ask him to shoulder some of that creative burden, or you can just play him as a left winger. And suddenly your attacking options are like Kudus, Bowen, and Desiree Doué.
It's
Like,
really
really cool. I think bigger teams should be looking at him, but if nobody like Arsenal pulls the trigger, I think West Ham have now got huge clout. Like they're like, come and live in a great city, get paid great wages, work under a really high profile manager. And I think the Kudus signing as well, I was just like, are West Ham getting smart? Like, that would be nice. If West Ham grew a brain, that would be really good. So I don't know. Losing Paquetá would be bad, but if you got Desiree Doué, I think it'd be like, silver lining.
Well, imagine they got him and they kept Paquetá.
Well, they're not going to, because Paquetá will never play football in the Premier League again.
It does seem it. Okay, the last one then, Henry. Bournemouth Football Club.
What a team to finish
Talk to
on.
me.
You guys have been waiting for it. Here it is. Bournemouth are quite an interesting team now. They got Thiago Pinto in as their sporting director, which does open a lot of doors. So I've gone to Serie A, which is where he's made most of his career. I've looked at the squad. It looks like they need some more energy at the base of their midfield. They've got Lewis Cook and Ryan Christie, both like good, honest players. I think you can have a bit more fun in there. They are linked. Tyler Adams, I should add. I'm not counting on him to be fit.
You forget he was even fit this year.
They're linked with Eduardo Bove from Roma.
Totally.
He just runs around a lot. Pretty good guy.
Sure.
Mourinho loved him. He's 22, but he hasn't played loads of football. This is my most statty find of this whole episode. And it's I thought about him for Fulham as well, similar to you. Maybe you saw him. Morten Frendrup of Genoa.
Sure.
He is
I've seen the name written down. That's my knowledge of this guy.
Danish midfielder, 23 years old. 5.4 tackles and interceptions last year.
Ooh,
That's the
like
most tackles in Serie A, the second most interceptions, the fourth most blocks, and he's like 3.8 tackles per 90, which is fifth most dribblers tackled in Europe. This guy's basically everywhere. And if you play,
the same stat.
yeah, I know.
You're doing a Romano where you do the same thing 3 times.
6.4 side steps per 90. This guy has got it all really.
Side step.
Oh, it's an unbelievable.
Sorry, is that an actual thing?
Who
is collecting that stat? Because that would be amazing. They're like, yeah, he's
I'm looking at how Iriola wants his team to play. He just wants them to run around like absolute crazy chickens. This guy, 5'11", super busy body in the centre of midfield for Genoa, who came 11th last year. Bove is fine, but fine. Yeah, I don't know. Like Bove is a bigger name, but this guy's got a contract until 2028, worth 20 million. Joined for like 3 million from Brøndby a couple of years ago. Get him in. It's the kind of Bournemouth signing that will probably turn out to be real good. A lot of their signings have been a bit random. So, to be honest, Zach, I don't really care about this.
Fair, absolutely fine.
Yeah. I think
all right.
Either Fulham should get him as well. Morten Frendrup. It's criminal that Thomas Delaney was picked over him for this Danish team. But yeah, they've got Morten Holmans. It's maybe too many Mortens.
Okay, so I've been making my decisions throughout the last 5 minutes on which transfers we're going to go with.
Well, it's good that you've been paying attention.
I've been taking a few notes, mainly the names. Okay. So,
Eduardo Bove. Does that mean, does his name like translate to Eddie Cow? Because that feels like it should, right?
Could well be.
Desiree Doué. Yes.
That's a big yes.
Patrick 1.
Oh, thank you. What do you mean I won?
1 as in 1.
Oh, right, okay, yeah.
Alanga to Brentford. Yes.
Oh, yeah, come on.
Henry Hill. 1. Lacroix to Ipswich.
What?
Yes.
That is, I cannot believe what you just said.
If he can go to Ipswich, then yes.
Mentally, that was a shoo-in to me. Okay.
Well, it's more fun to go to Ipswich. So
it is more fun.
2 to Pat.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll feel that when they're relegated.
Ardagula.
Samuel Chukwueze. Yes. 2-2. Ardagula, yes.
What?
3-2.
Yeah.
This is mental.
Come on,
mental.
You can't say no to that. This is genius.
Oh. Fabio Carvalho. Yes.
Yeah, that's a huge yes. That's probably your best, I think.
So far, only my
3-3.
wingers and attacking midfielders.
3-3.
Okay. It's gonna turn into no's very soon.
Denzel Dumfries. Yes.
Oh, okay.
4-3. Thuram. Yes.
Thanks. He's lost track.
Have I done Pedro Neto?
No.
Yes.
Really?
Pedro Neto. Yes.
Just saying yes to all our transfers.
Which means I've got one transfer left, and I don't want to give it to Bruno G because it's boring.
It is boring.
I like Spurs Fofana. I like the idea of
very good
Newcastle getting a right winger in, but I'd be lying if I said that I knew a lot about Alex Beamer. I'm not bothered about Jimenez. I'm not bothered about Friendrop. I'm not bothered about Marial.
This is
So it's just whether or not Zubimendi goes to Arsenal.
Boring. I've been hearing about that for a year, so I find that like boring. But yeah.
To be clear, I've already got 5 yeses, and you said at the start of the show it would not be a draw. So by default, you have to give it to me.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. You're obliged to do it.
I will let the fans at home pick the final transfer. That's how we're going to be doing it. Let me know in the comments below who it should be.
10 players we found each for this.
Yeah, you did very, very well, guys. Thank you very much. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Henry Hill, where can the other people at home find you?
Well, who knows? We'll see. But just I'll be.
It'll be around. It'll be around. Make sure you check him out on social media. Patrick Van Straten. You don't just talk about football on here. You also talk about football on your own podcast as well. Where can people at home find that?
The Unseen Incidents podcast. You can find us on Spotify or wherever you get your apps. You can also subscribe to us at Patreon, patreon.com/PatrickVS. If you subscribe, you can ask questions. You get 2 extra episodes a month. I think that's like good value. We've got 5-star reviews across the board. Ooh. Actually, I found out we're like 4.9 on Spotify, and I was like, "What's happened here?
Who put a 4?
Yeah, what an arsehole. How dare they?" But anyway, yeah. Otherwise, well reviewed.
Well, make sure you check that out again in the description below. Check out Hello Fresh as well. Make sure you come to Clubhouse 5 if you are in London, especially for the Euros. It is fantastic. Guys, subscribe to the channel, like the video, and we'll see you next week. Bye.